bones break, and that sucks.
So you drink loads of milk.
Yeah, that'll do it. That'll fix you. If it hadn't become clear, this is a video, an Unearthed ARTcana video, in which we're going to talk about an Unearthed ARTcana that's come out relatively recently, with a bunch of subclasses, while I, Theo, draw them. Who are you guys?
Oh, well, I'm Neil, and I'm reading the subclass right now.
I'm Sam, and I'm also trying to learn what the subclass is right now before we start talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, disclosure, it's been a long time since we've done this.
It's been one of those years. I've been doing stuff. I've been DMing. You guys have been doing things, DMing, playing. There's been a disease. There's been an election that we had nothing to do with.
Yeah, that took loads of time.
I was running for office.
We kept trying to tell him he can't because he's not American, but it didn't stop him. And then
didn't stop him. He did pretty well.
He did pretty well.
Anyway. But now on Subclasses Part 5, which is all to do with dragon stuff. 2 dragon classes, it's the monk and the ranger. I think we're going to do both in one video, ideally, so this might be a bit long. And there's a couple things, I mean, I've talked to you, Neil, about a couple of the things from this, not to do with the classes, but to do with a thing in 5th that's kind of new, which I don't really like. And it's going to come up, so maybe I should say it now, as quickly as possible, so we can move on and not keep going on about it. And that's like me.
I like that. You can get out your dirty laundry, the grievances.
It's nothing to do with how I don't like Ranger. I'm not going to mention that I don't like Ranger in this video.
No, we won't talk about how much you don't like Ranger in this video.
I don't
not even
like
once.
Ranger, but that's fine. That's nothing. That's a preference. What I don't like about this new trend in 5th is you pick a subclass with like a list of options that you can pick from, and then it'll say you pick this at the start of your turn, or at the start of a short rest, or whatever. Which is very strange to me. It'd be like if that genie warlock had a line where it's like, you pick your patron, a genie, or an Ifriti, or a Dao, but then if it also said, and you can change that at a long rest, because it has specific, like, elemental stuff. So for both of these subclasses to do with dragons, obviously dragons come in different flavors, different elemental flavors. I know why it has to be there, but also 5th or just D&D in general is a game in which your choices can matter more than in any other like game, because there's a referee, there's a DM. So having the option to change your like elemental resistance or like what damage you're doing in the situation, trying to be, especially if you have a character like, oh yeah, my backstory, I'm the dragon monk because I was trained by a white dragon or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you start busting out all the red dragon and
then the DM's like, oh, well, this is a fighting undead campaign, so everything's resistant to cold damage. And you're just like, anyway. So that's something I don't like.
Go find the Yeti.
Yeah. It's a thing I don't like, and it's in a couple of things. I think there's been a few classes that have had this. I don't love it, but I know why it has to be there. But I think when it comes to like compromise, that should be something that the DM can do, as opposed to something that's in like the player's hands, if you catch my drift.
Agreed. The amount of times that we have had situations arise where players or individuals want to change something about their character, and I have never seen in good faith the answer be, no, you can't do that, don't have fun.
Yeah.
Like,
but by having it be something that's part of the class, it's adding more to the player.
Now there's an optimal solution.
Exactly. Anyway, I think that's a little bit of a thing that plagues both of these classes, more one than the other, so it might come up again, but other than that, overall I kind of like these classes. They need a little bit. Anyway, we'll talk about it now. Okay, that's out of the way.
Nice and concise.
Nice and concise. We're talking about the monk. But I will say what I'm drawing, which is, well, it may be obvious from this shape that I've drawn, and these feet, but it's a turtle. It's going to be a dragon turtle.
Nice.
It's just a silly joke.
Fantastic. Bowser.
Yeah. So both of these classes have a little table. I think of the like origins that they suggest, these ones make more sense than the ones for the ranger. If that basically you're a dragon fan is what it's saying. You like dragons, so you try to fight like a dragon.
Big up the dragons.
Yeah, I also find it quite interesting that like the 6 on both these tables. This one is clearly the Ascendant Dragon is clearly Tiamat, the 5-handed Dragonborn, and then the Dragon Guard is clearly Bahamut with the man with the canaries.
Sure, yeah, that's cool actually.
I found that quite interesting to point out.
That's a fun. Definitely ties into the lore, but it's again not so specific that you're tied down too much. If you want to use it however you want as a DM, that's fun.
You could honestly almost use both these tables for either one.
Sure, that's true.
Yeah.
And what I actually like about a dragon fighting monk over, for example, a dragon wizard or whatever, is that dragons have magical abilities, but they are not abilities that use, intelligence. They're not wizards. They are innate magic powers for them, and ki is meant to be like, innate physical magic, if you catch my drift.
Yeah.
So it makes sense for quote unquote, it makes sense to be able to train hard the body to be able to learn how to breathe fire. That makes sense enough to me.
You heard it here first. If you try hard enough, kids, you can breathe fire. If you just train at it.
Yeah, I'm all good with that. And of course, there's that bit in Avatar: Last Airbender where Zuko and Aang go and learn how to do firebending from dragon ghosts, and they do a dance. So there's stuff that you can take inspiration from, and it's all good fun. Okay.
I quite like in the Ascendant Dragon origin table that it basically has room for the dragon to be a character as well in here. Like, a dragon took an active role in shaping your energy. Which is almost like a bunch of these could be describing a dragon warlock.
Yeah. I think we've occasionally brought even that up.
That
like
patrony kind of relationship.
Yeah, having a dragon patron could be cool. And to be honest, they may do some more dragon classes. This may be the first of many. The Unearthed Arcana. So why not, eh? So yeah, the first thing, Draconic Disciple, being able to do the damage of a changing a weapon or an unarmed strike into an element. Sure, that's very sensible. It's nothing earth-breaking. Again, the fact that it can be any of those elements. I think there's a way that this one makes sense with the monk more so than the ranger, because if you did get trained by someone Tiamat-y, or just trained because you like dragons, then sure, it would make sense that you maybe studied all of them. So this one makes more sense, I think, than the ranger does later. And
you can come up with so much flavour about it, like the 5, because again it says it's what was it? After a dream, you featured a 5-handed dragonborn. So it's the 5 heads.
And you can imagine, doing, a claw, 2 claws with the hands to make, a scary mouth, and then, the element comes out of that or whatever. That's all fun. Getting Draconic as a language, sure, makes sense.
Yeah.
It means that you get to pick another language, I guess, when you're making your character.
Yep.
Although, I would say that
if you're getting trained, you should probably know it before.
Yeah, or know it already, yeah.
Yeah.
But again, if I was DMing for someone, I would say, yes, you can start with Draconic and then pick
another one
when you get to this level or whatever.
Yeah.
Unless you do the background where you find a scroll with cool techniques in it, like one of
That's true. The DM just gives it to you. Oh, there's some sick techniques in here. And then, overnight, oh yeah, I'm a dragon now.
I like the fact that on the reroll thing, you can keep doing it until it succeeds.
That's
nice.
Was weird. I didn't... Because the way this one's worded is reaction, that's a combat thing. But I guess outside of combat, it just means you re-roll it.
You re-roll before it takes effect, I guess.
I guess it just basically means you have advantage.
It's
on.
It's a re-roll, isn't it? So it's not technically the same because you'd have to take the second.
That is true. Yeah.
Thing. It's not a pick and choose. It's a. Well, I rolled a 10. I guess I can re-roll before I get the feedback.
Yeah.
If it worked.
With persuasion checks, there's not always a cut and dry fail or pass. It's if you get a 10, then that's something. If you get a 15, that's another something, and if you get a 20, that's another something. So it's a little weird, this ability, but it makes I like it enough because again, it's dragons are meant to be this charismatic thing, and if you look at their skills, that is something that they're good at, intimidation. So. Sure.
A dragon's terrifying.
Although, to be fair, it does say if it turns a failure into a success, so you would know that you failed, and you're re-rolling.
Right. Again, this is why this one's weird, because it doesn't act like a lot of other abilities that are similar.
They're have advantage or take a minimum or...
And the fact that it's a reaction is so strange, because again, you don't think in terms of combat actions outside of combat. Of course, in combat you could intimidate, but
I guess you'd have that so that they can't just keep re-rolling.
Sure, yeah.
You only get one reaction.
That's true. And I guess what you could do with it is you could be fighting like a bunch of goblin idiots or whatever and not want to deal with them, and just because you have this ability, you can kind of get away with it a bit more and just say, can I just roll intimidation and hope that they run away? Which of course you should be able to do anyway, like say that you try that. But again, having an ability tied to it makes that feel more legitimate.
Gives you presence is what this is supposed to be, isn't it? Like,
yeah. But of course you get 2 things at 3rd level.
You do.
Breath of the Dragon. This one's a lot, in my opinion. Because it's one of these things that's tied to proficiency, and you can replace, I guess it's only once per turn, you can replace an attack.
Mm-hmm.
I assume that's meant to mean you can replace one of your attacks.
Yeah, it says you can replace one of the attacks. So
yeah,
no matter how many, obviously you give me a flurry of blows, it's just one.
Yeah,
in that attack.
But yeah, the fact that it doesn't cost a key point until you've run out of your uses, and especially because you get a lot of key points as monk because you get them on short rest and whatnot. I don't know how I feel about this.
It's weird. I like that it's a proficiency and spend a resource. Love those things. Love them.
Yeah.
And a breath. It's cool. It
definitely makes
scales
sense.
Better than the base Dragonborn, which is I know what a friend Raj went on about, is that this is better than a Dragonborn ability. Yeah. But it starts off weaker, but it gets better very quickly. Mm-hmm. Well, not quickly, like 11th level, but your martial arts tie goes up a lot faster. And you get to do different damage types. And having a breath, as you can imagine it very easily, a monk's breathing fire, but that we watch Dragon Ball and shit, so we used to, we used to people just randomly breathing fire and stuff like that. Yeah.
Again, monk's one of those classes where if there's a monk in the party, it kind of changes the tone because it's so different to all the other classes.
Yeah. I think like mechanically, I think it's cool to give like the monk now has like a kind of like AoE kind of thing to do. Rather, I mean, they can do more than just run and punch things, but they do run and punch things a lot.
It's definitely cool. I just don't know if it's like it seems very strong to me. It is my only but again, perhaps because it is so big, that situationally, and again, there's not necessarily a problem with giving people strong stuff. But when I read it, I was just like, whoa, that seems really good.
Let's be realistic, because they're going to get like 2, 3, 4 of these for free, instead of punching a guy or slashing a guy really hard with a magic weapon or something.
Sure, yeah.
And then after that, they're going to be spending key points, which they could be spending on flurry of blows or stunning strike.
This is an attack that you're not stunning someone on, so maybe that's the part of the trade-off.
Yeah,
the stunning strike is so good.
Yeah,
but this. And of course, like, I don't know, it probably comes down to DM style as well. If you're a DM who has a lot of, mobs, lots of little, like, hordes of enemies,
lots of gremlins,
this will really shine. But if you have a lot of, a single target, then this will never really be useful.
Mm-hmm.
So that's actually a fair point.
I think you'd really have to figure out how your monk does this.
Sure, yeah.
Because it doesn't say you spit it up, obviously. It just says you release an exhalation of draconic energy, which says it's kind of spitting out, but it doesn't mean that,
Yeah, the way I was going to do the original pose for this drawing, but I changed my mind, was I was going to have them hands together, like shadow puppet of a scary mouth with, like, coming out of that.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe, like, a spiritual dragon head, like, I think because, later on, they get, like, hologram wings. So there's, like, precedent for that.
You're thinking even like a Wolfang Fist kind of scenario.
Yeah. And you could even have, like, the Dark Souls 3 summon big hologram head above you to breathe fire. Like, that is not unreasonable. It's definitely cool, and I think it probably, it'll come down to how your DM, builds their encounters. And if your DM's nice, then they'll make sure they have a good mix of lots of little weak dudes so that you can use this ability a lot.
And you know what? Let's be honest about something else we talk about a lot. We love weaknesses when we do challenge raters. We talk about monsters having weaknesses and resistances.
Sure, yeah.
So having a way, if you were more kind of cut in, having a way to do like a ton of elemental damage in different ways, like single target multi-thing, is always fun for like getting around resistance and things. Like in Raj's campaign, we had a big thing with underwater with lightning being really effective. So suddenly all these lightning spells became really cool in like a different way. So you could always have, when that happens to like this monk, and he can really excel at something, that could be awesome.
I haven't mentioned about that is if you are playing with feats, the optional rule, I think a lot of people do, there is like the elemental master feat. So if you did want to really double down, like, yes, I know I could be any of these.
Be an elemental boy.
Yeah, you could just pick one of them and then like always do that. And then you could even argue that the meta choice would be to stick with that because it has the elemental master feat has that you ignore resistance, which is or make immunity into resistance. Anyway,
that'd be a good way to definitely play it down the whole like I was trained by a certain dragon or a certain lineage.
Yeah.
But you have the others there, like, but you're good at this. Like, this is the one that like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
I believe Elemental Adept does save the spells you cast.
Well, I mean, we know what we would do about that.
We know exactly. We would just cross out that word.
Because that's the thing.
Pretend it doesn't exist.
That was written back, when there was no real way to do elemental damage other than with spells. Because even then, the elemental monk used key points to cast spells, didn't they?
Yeah.
And it still does because it's a bit goofy, but
we'll definitely ignore that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Overall, I think it's a better ability than initially thought.
It could easily become your bread and butter thing, and it's a very dragony thing.
Yes.
If it's a little overpowered, which I'm not even sure it is, I don't know how you would balance it without making it very bad, like most of the time. So probably okay as it is.
It's like a weak spell that you kind of get to do a lot.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like when you think about it in that terms, like you're going to do this 3 or 4 times. You're not likely to do this more than 3 or 4 times in a encounter anyway, because it's unlikely to go on for more than that many turns. Okay, Wings Unfurled, 6th level. Basically, it's a buff to Step of the Wind, which is cool. I like abilities that buff other abilities. Like I really liked I think it was one of the undead warlocks had a buff to it gave Spare the Dying, the cantrip, a buff. And it just made it so you could cast it as like a range spell, but like that's cool because it takes something that's lesser used. And I would say Step of the Wind is probably not the most used monk thing. Probably Stunning Strike is. And it gives it a little buff and makes it a bit more flavorful. So yeah, basically you get wings and you can fly till the end of your turn, which I like because then you just are sort of in mid-air depending on what you're doing. So I guess you could just use a lot of key points to keep flying.
Let's not forget monks are fast because it's fly speed equal to your walk speed.
Yeah, I'm just thinking Win with this just would never have any kind of physical limitation to get anywhere ever.
It's true.
They just jump 100 feet up and then move like fly another 45, and you're just like,
yeah, that would be a lot. That's
a strong. That's different. That's a very edge case issue.
Sure, yeah. So you do have the increased movement as monk anyway. So this is actually quite cool because Ellen, there's a lot of flying stuff. It's like, oh, it's flying away. What do we do if you don't have strong range stuff? Not very much. So if you get up there with a couple of key points again, it's on the proficiency as well. So you get 12, 18 seconds of flying, and then if you have your key points you can keep that up so you're not gonna crater or not quite get there,
or just use it for simple things like avoiding difficult terrain. Fly over it.
Especially like down if you're doing like a session where you're like, okay, you guys are gonna travel a long way and you're not necessarily gonna do a lot of combat, so you're like, okay, you come across an obstacle and you're traveling, and this is something that you can use to say, okay, well, I can fly around and do this, or go up there and spy and look up ahead. So a useful little thing.
The phrase you mean is completely invalidate the thing that the DM thought of by saying I have this one ability.
Yeah, well, yes.
Isn't that the whole nature of being a DM though? Yeah, I'm gonna have all these things to do. They go, nope. You're like, okay.
No, but level 6 I invalidate you.
And then you go, oh, damn! It's good. It's good fun, but the problem becomes when you were hoping they'd spend enough time.
If they spend an hour on this, but they spend 2 minutes on it. Like,
I have not planned the rest.
You get attacked. It's rather combat that goes for like an hour. There you go.
Orcs run out of the woods and stab you, or whatever. A Zorn comes out of the ground and asks for money.
Please give me gold.
I've mildly hinted at the Zorn for a reason that I'll come back to.
Oh, well, that wasn't just a random pick.
It wasn't a random pick, Zorn. Other than the fact that Zorns can just come out of the ground at any moment
and ask for gold.
and ask for gold.
Yep.
Literally, at any point in your campaign, you could just have a Zorn pop.
And you should.
Goddamn Earth money toilets.
They should just be on every random encounter. Anyway, I would say that the line "unfurl spectral draconic wings from your back" is very much undoing that bit where it talks about where the dragon breathing, the dragon breath is not specific that it's coming out of your mouth.
Yeah.
This is too specific in its language, I would say. But again, you could flavour it however you want. It's not that important.
It does read a little bit like
It's
edgy, like 14-year-old Sonic OC devil,
it's divinity, isn't it? Where every single ability, they're like chameleon spell, a big shiny hologram chameleon appears above your head. It's like, okay, subtlety. Anyway,
it's fine.
It's fine.
If someone enjoys it and they want to look cool doing it, that's fine. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's good.
As
fact
playing a character who has had wings.
Wings
are really fun.
Yes.
wings thrust upon you.
Yeah, I ate a magic fruit and my character grew wings and became God. What of it?
It was fate.
And what?
And what? Now, level 11, finally. Aspect of the worm. This ability is a bit weird in my mind. There's a couple lines in it, which are the things that make it weird. Basically, you get a big old aura. 30-foot aura is big. Again, I think the Paladin aura doesn't become 30 feet until a bit higher than 11th. I think it's maybe 15th or something. You get the resistance, so that's good. Giving out resistance to everyone in the aura, that's pretty strong. If you know, it does have the kind of weird thing where you're like, oh, we're fighting a fire monster. I'm gonna take on the aspect of the fire thing, but I guess you can still attack with ice stuff or whatever.
Yeah, you can attack differently to what your aura is.
Yeah. So it's a bit of a mix there.
I think for this one, I think that you have to factor in that you are playing a non-monochromatic style.
Yeah.
I think it just lends itself too much to the flexibility.
Sure, yeah.
I think it lends it way more than the next one, than the Drake Guard. The Drake Guard screams to be one colour.
This one is just you're just Ang. You just master the elements and you just use them all when you punch people.
Yeah, and it works for that. So that's not a problem.
Yeah.
It's better than the elemental monk. Like
yes.
Well,
that is. It's not praise.
I would say that I'm not a massive fan of Aspect of the Worm. Like, I mean, I've said that kind of already, but the fact that when your allies get hit in your aura, they explode with the energy.
I don't like
really,
it. It's a MOBA ability.
Yeah, it's such a video gamey thing, and also, again, we've been playing online for a long time, and we have the very handy tool in Roll20. I'm sure most of these online D&D or tabletop things have a similar tool where you can easily measure distances.
Yep.
But if you're playing actually on the tabletop, counting a 30-foot radius around your character in the mini, trying to figure out what's in it, and then remembering to use reactions to do obviously your martial art die isn't going to be, it'll be changing throughout the game, so it's just a little this kind of makes everyone play your character in a way. Now let me explain that in a way that makes sense, because that doesn't sound like what I mean. When you make a character in D&D, you obviously, it's collaborative usually, you're usually part of a party, but you don't have to love playing or what other characters do, so long as you're enjoying it and that you can all get along, and that's fine. But if it's something like, oh, you should use a reaction to do my ability that I've got, then it's like, well, what if I want to save my... Then at that point, I think that's... I don't love that. But I don't know if that really matters that I don't love that, because it might be... Do you get what I mean?
I get exactly what... I get... No, you're not shouting into the void. I get exactly what you're saying.
I think everybody has to be on board with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like if you're playing it with, especially if you've got to this level with a party, assuming you're not doing a one shot at 11th level or whatever, and you've gone through. Yeah. I feel like you probably get on with people enough, and you you'd know that'd be okay, this guy is is a cast with not a lot of reactions, so you should probably be, if you've got nothing to do, you've got it.
Do it, yeah.
But if you're you've got someone else doing all their wild things, and if they're a druid that's doing spore reactions or whatever, just
counter spells and stuff.
Yeah, then I think you'll know, and just be you can just remind people. I get what you mean though.
Yeah.
I get what you mean though. If you're calling out to people, being you should use your reactions. It's not like how with the bard, the inspiration, when you can remind people to use it.
But
They've
that's
got
just
it.
helping.
But it's your thing. It's not like their resources, even though
Yeah,
reactions.
yeah.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
I don't think it's a massive issue personally, but I get.
I think the damage is inconsequential. It's like a D8.
That's the thing. I think if this was just you yourself, your damage pops out of you, I would still think it's very video gamey, but I would also think that's fine. Like, I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
And that's probably the way that you'd end up using it for the most time. You wouldn't necessarily activate this ability thinking, yes, everyone's going to get hit loads, and I can't wait for them to all react. Like,
choosing a resistance for your whole party is amazing.
Yes. And that's also true, yes. A group resistance, very, very strong. It doesn't necessarily make a whole lot of sense. Like, I can't imagine how that works, but it's a good ability.
Imagine being in a party with a paladin and this guy, and
yeah, that's true.
You are, and you just group together. You are tanky.
The red dragon turns, breathes fire on the whole party, and it's just like resistance, and everyone has like +5 to the save.
Yeah, that's when things. Yeah, when you read the dragon breath damage, that's when you start like, okay, we need something. Everyone needs a bit of resistance to this, and playing like an evil party, and you're like a Tiamat monk, and you're fighting like metallic dragons.
That could be awesome.
You got an evil paladin or whatever.
Blaggard.
And then you can use key points to cast this again after you've done it, which they've been doing a lot of recently, and that's fine. That's cool.
4 key points to basically choose a party-wide resistance. I'm up
that
for
feels
that.
okay.
You have 11 at the 11th level, so.
So yeah, the final thing, 17th level, Ascendant Aspect. I like this ability because it kind of brings in some stuff from like the dragon stat block, which you don't think about. Like, you don't think about blind sight when you think about dragons necessarily. Although you might do, because again, it kind of harkens back to that those old fairy tales of dragons, and like in The Hobbit, Smaug's like sitting around. He doesn't know where Bilbo is, but he can sense him. He knows he's there, and it's a cool thing that you don't necessarily. Because you think of dragons, fire breath flies, cool. But again, I like that the capstone for this has that blind sight in there, which is a rare thing. I don't know if there's many ways to get blind sight.
Not legit.
Not legit ways, yeah. Not that are purely in books, yeah. I'm not sure how useful it'll be at that level, but I'm sure there's a lot of like very stealthy high level things, and invisibility is never like useful for enemies to have. It's never good. It's never like not a problem. Being blind to an enemy is bad. So effectively, I suppose, if you got something that's invisible, then you don't have disadvantage because you can see them with blind sight. So that's pretty good.
I also feel that maybe blind sight should be something monks should get anyway.
Yeah,
well, that is a good argument. There's definitely an argument for that, but.
And you basically set people on fire, or on lightning, or on poison,
or acid, or
tick damage is pretty rare in 5th. I can't think of.
I think there's a bleed from something.
Yeah, there's definitely a couple, but there's very few things which have save ends on a damaging effect, which again I think was kind of all over the place in 4th. I remember that a lot. But the
save ends was the phrase.
Yeah, save it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, save ends, man. God. Having the element damage ticking, and it's your martial arts die, which again at 17th level is going to be pretty meaty, and you're still hitting them, so pretty good.
D10.
Pretty good. And,
it's nice.
And the final, of course, when you activate your aspect of the worm, you also explode. That's fine, sure, why not? You explode, does some damage, and it doesn't hit your allies. Unless you want it to, but...
Think about the AoE capability, though, of, like, this monk, when you think about it. He jumps in, he breathes the thing, he explodes as a bonus action, and he can spend, like, key points to explode again.
Yeah.
And it's a 30-foot...
You could deactivate it and then reactivate it.
Yeah, it's a 30-foot radius around him. So if he jumps into a sea of goblins... He could just be novering over and over again.
4d10's not loads, but it's not a bad thing when you're to open a combat with. There's no downside to that, so that's cool. Nothing wrong with this ability. Now, there is one thing, and I'll go back to Zorn, which I miss, which is it's not represented in either of these classes. What's the other thing that we all know about dragons? They love money.
They love
treasure.
Money. They love treasure.
So what they should have given you, instead of blind sight, all monks should get blind sight, and this monk should also get treasure sense.
Yeah.
Oh, treasure sense.
They should actually get like, what's that? What do you smell?
Gold.
I think that'd be awesome. It'd be real silly, but it'd be fun. You can even be just like, you can sense like high, powerful magic artifacts or like huge wealth. Like you can. I think that'd be very cool. So, I want that in one of these dragon classes. I want one of them to be money obsessed.
It could have had a floor table.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah, draconic floors. That'd be cool.
And it would be like each floor of the different dragons. Like the green ones. Like you don't put much value in the truth.
Sure,
that could be cool. Maybe that's more background, like a dragon follower background.
Yeah, and I'd say treasure sense is something that like DM could easily put in. This is the final thing. So as you can see, I gave him a gilded. He's got a gold plated shell as my tribute to that. And I also thought, hey, the dragon turtle has steam breath, and that does like fire damage in the actual game. So there's no reason you couldn't reskin that if you were doing this. If you wanted to play as a kind of dragon turtle inspired turtle. I believe in the Xanathar, because Xanathar has the cool little thing for all the classes where it's like, oh, what's your fighting style, or what's your monk tradition? And I think dragon turtle's on there.
I think there's dragon turtle style. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe
I'm getting some Oogway vibe, like badass.
Oh yeah, from Kung Fu Panda. I think this is a fine monk.
Yeah.
It's definitely kind of ridiculous, but that's okay, I suppose.
If we compare it to the other monks just for a moment...
Sure, yeah.
I mean, there's like the Kensai, which is just, I want to be a fighter that has monk abilities.
Yeah, it's definitely stronger than Kensai. That's undeniable.
Drunken Master's flavour is great, but I think you have to really want to play a Drunken Master, not just pick that subclass.
Yeah.
The base martial arts one is really fun. Just being.
I really like Open Hand. It's one of my faves. I think Drunken is my favourite, but Open Hand's cool. I like
It's better than Four Elements, which does a very similar thing.
Again, Four Elements was one of those is early in 5th, and they were trying, as far as we can tell, they were trying to, keep the game simple, but Four Elements really. Flopped down dead on the board.
It was more like Mystic with you pick abilities.
By trying to be simple, by having spells as opposed to unique abilities, it became too complicated, and also just not very strong, which is a shame. This is probably one of the best damage output monks, which I guess maybe why I felt it was strong, too strong. But also you are it's not crazy, and it's going to be very situational, so that's fine.
I think trying to get monk flavor right is difficult.
Yeah,
it's like the bard problem.
It just feels a little. It's not a weird class, but it definitely can easily feel out of place.
That's why I said if you have a monk in the party, it immediately sets a specific kind of tone.
Tone shifts a little bit.
Yeah, which is fine. But...
I mean, it's a world in which magic exists. It's fine.
Exactly. Yeah. This is a monk out of monk, above average monk. This monk, I would say.
Good B plus.
Yeah, definitely. I'd say B plus.
B star.
B star.
B star. I don't know anything about B stars.
10 out of train.
It's the one with animal men. Right, we're going to talk about the Drake Warden, which is this ranger. Now,
Fear loves rangers.
I love ranger. I'm not talking about ranger. I'm not going to talk about my love of ranger right now. What I'm going to talk about is I like this idea of having, because I think ranger should be the Beastmaster class. I think that's the solution to making ranger a unique class. That, because currently I feel like there's been some problems with ranger trying to nail down what it does. And I think the best way to do that should be make it the Beastmaster class. And this is expanding on... This is taking that great idea of mine that no one else has had, I'm sure. And it's saying, yeah, sure, that sounds like a good idea. So basically you're a Beastmaster, but for a Drake, which is a little dragon dog thing.
I quite like this one, actually. I think I could definitely see myself playing it.
I like it, but I think I have a lot of everything about it has a little bit of an asterisk next to it.
Yes.
Needs discussion about this. What I'm drawing, you might have guessed from the snout, is a kobold. I thought a kobold would be a perfect choice for this class.
Definitely.
Because if you look at the Drake Warden Origins, which again, these ones are this is why this one kind of needs to have more of be a bit stricter, I feel. These Origins are nowhere near as solid as the Monk ones. Because they have to tie into this idea that when you summon your Drake, it's like an extra plane of being that you're summoning, and it's not always the same one.
Right.
So you just have a relationship to dragons.
That is all
very
stuff,
like it's really like non-specific.
That's all the stuff I would completely ignore about this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. So what I would do, and I assume Neil, you're probably on the same page with me here, is that you would say you have a relationship like a patron with a dragon or something. I really like the Standing Stone one in here. I think that's very like mystical. That's cool. But when the fact that your Drake would be the same Drake every time, and the fact that it would die, you would figure out a way around that. You would say, you nurture it back, or it goes away for a bit, but it comes back from that plane where you summon it from. There's a lot of little things around this class.
Yeah.
I like it conceptually.
The idea is good, but execution is
Yeah.
problematic in areas.
I would definitely just have it that it goes down and it's injured, but why it just doesn't die? He's just out. Like, what's wrong with that?
Okay, well, I'll really quickly say, Draconic Gift. You can speak Draconic, great, sure, fine. You learn Thaumaturgy, okay?
Sure.
Thaumaturgy is a great spell, love it.
Yeah.
Sick! So yes, the Drake Companion is the main bread and butter of this class. And I'm drawing, as you can see now on the screen, probably, hopefully, if I've timed this right.
You have.
Because when I first read this, I was like, oh, sick. And then I read some specifics about your Drake. Specifically, it's small. I was like, what? But Drakes are like a medium creature. So I was like, okay, so it's like a little dog dragon. And then like, oh, it can fly later, but not at the beginning. Anyway, so the one that I'm drawing is a horrible little bulldog dragon thing.
I love it.
And it's so stupid.
That body shape. Yeah.
This is that little thing in the Jabba's palace who goes and he's like the thing that flies.
It's been a couple of weeks since I actually drew this, and I forgot what it looked like. Okay,
I love it. Beautiful. This is very How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah.
But
they've got a lot of ugly dragons in that, which is pretty great.
The couple problems in order. Main problem.
Problem one.
Weirdly, again, you summon it, and then when it dies, it disappears. And after like a minute, it disappears. Not after a minute, it's like an hour or something. It lasts a certain amount of time, not especially long. That's weird. I would say to fix that, you always have it out, but you can like empower it for a certain amount of time. And when it's not empowered, it has the stats of like a regular dog or something, right? So it's useless, basically. But then you can embiggen it, you can empower it up for a bit, or it has the stats of like a pseudo dragon. And
that's
then
what I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, and then it has the stats that are here for fighting. Second point, it's small, which I don't necessarily think is a big problem. Like, I didn't mind that until a later ability, like at high level, it can become medium. And not medium, large even. And I was like, why does it go from small to large? And then I realised it's because, and I'm pretty sure this is the reason, they don't want small creatures using it as a mount.
Yep.
I don't know if that's true. If it is, that's really like, what's
wrong with that?
What's wrong with that? And being small already has some downsides. Like, you can't use your claymores and whatnot, and your battle axes. Let people ride the dragon at low level, because you can ride it at high level because it becomes large, and then anyone can ride it. And that's why I think. That's why I think that's the argument.
I would have loved if at like level 6 it became medium, and then like like it was actually a progression. It was like, oh well, I can ride it early because I'm little, and then that's
and if you do have it out all the time, maybe it's tiny, and then like it actually does get like a bit, and like that would be silly, but at least you know,
Dynamax it like Pokemon.
I still am planning on playing a Beastmaster Ranger who is a Bullywug.
Oh yeah,
and his Beastmaster companion is a frog that was that he found and was experimented on that grows big, right?
Oh, sure, yeah.
And so because it has all that spirit stuff in like the revised Ranger about bringing it back after it's dead, all that weird stuff that's to be better gameplay wise, but doesn't feel the same flavor as making a bond with an animal.
Yeah.
You send out the frog. he fights, or in this case, the dragon. He gets hurt and he shrinks and he comes back to you. It's like Pokemon, return.
Yeah.
Right.
Get back in the Pokeball. Yeah. You've fainted.
They found a problem because obviously D&D's kind of it can be quite like death is always around the corner potentially. Like it's easier to die.
That is the point of the game.
We've seen this in my campaign with you guys. Raj got through 1 million animal companions,
and that's the thing. Yeah, we were playing with the original Beastmaster, and we were playing by the rules. So and beasts have 10 health.
They just died.
They just died.
They just die. So that's obviously a shame. Because,
I spend all this time setting up a police frog, and he just freaking dies 2 encounters in.
And it's a real shame. But then also, the other end of the scale is this, where it's not even the same creature. It's just a spirit that you So, and again, you can rule this however you want. And I think they probably are aware of that. But it's just one of those things where
you're putting a lot of work in at this point to make it feel nice.
Yeah, and because obviously,
just let us have the dragon dog. Let us pet the dragon dog. Let it be our friend. Come on.
Because the dragon dog dies. Oh no, but it was never real.
Yeah.
It's the problem I have, and this is a bit of a weird tangent, but bear with me. It's the problem I have with alternate universe stories, when, in JoJo, eventually it becomes an alternate reality, and it's well, why did I ever care about the original one then? Man.
Yeah, unless the timelines are, continuously crossing over.
Yeah, unless that's the whole point, but when it's just, a reboot of the same thing, it's but then what about the one I loved before? And again, sometimes it's fun and dramatic, not fun, but sometimes it's dramatic and a good story when something tragically dies. But the fact that beasts die too easily is a problem. This, I think, is an overcorrection, but again, it's not too hard to fix.
Let's play Avocado, which means Devil's Advocate.
Mm-hmm.
It's British.
Yes.
That is how that works.
It's easier to go one way than the other. It's easier to say to your DM, "Oh, can it please be the same dragon?
Yeah.
Can it please be around more, but weaker?" Than to say "Oh, can my pet be a magic dragon that has a spirit and comes back?" It's easier to go one way than the other.
It is true.
True.
It's and I do not envy them the task of making this, because again I think range is kind of with the psychic stuff. Ranger is a class that's been in the game for a long time, and it has a lot of people who like very different things that have been in different editions, and there's not one solution, which is annoying because that would be ideal, but there's no way to make, because I think best solution is make it the Beastmaster class and then make that good, but then there's lots of people who don't want to be Beastmaster but want to be Ranger.
My solution was make it like Warlock, where it's a build your own class.
Ah, like with invocations, right?
Yeah, where it's basically oh yeah, I pick the thing that means I have a pet, and I pick the thing that means I have the maneuvery stuff, because the base Ranger from the Player's Handbook is basically like what you're talking about, a beast guy, because even the combat-y one is Horde Slayer and Colossus Killer. It's like a monster hunter-y kind of.
Sure.
With a preferred enemy stuff, and and that's more along that alley. Yeah. It's weird. In a game that has Barbarian and Fighter, Ranger is in a weird spot with spell casting and...
Yeah. Because it should be somewhere between a Fighter and Druid. But again, Druid is so strange and different that you can't really... All it is they have some spells that they share.
They can cast good berries, really what you're trying to say.
Yeah. Anyway.
The best spell.
Some powerful spell. Is there anything about the actual Drake stats? I don't... They've been doing this thing with the Beastmaster and I think the I don't know what it's called, but the Artificer who has a robot companion. They have this system now for calculating hit points and stuff, and I was trying to figure out how good it is, and I seem to remember I feel like a Ranger who's 10th level, which is mid to high, then it has a decent amount of health. It's going to have 50 something health, I think.
It has more hit points than my wizard.
Yes, that's true. So that feels decent, and its AC being Scaling, sure. I think like AC maximum of 20 at 20th level and starting at 14. Sure, that sounds fine.
It's fast.
Yeah,
it's cool. It's cool.
Yeah, it's decent, and it's got a bite, and it does.
It's better than the black bear.
It's better than a black bear. It has an elemental damage that you choose, of course, because it's never the same. Again, it's stupid, same dragon. Whatever. We've been through that now. We don't need to talk about that more unless it comes up.
Yeah.
The most interesting thing about it is its reaction, though.
And yeah, it has unique reaction, which is cool. So yeah, it'll. I like this because you can imagine it sort of like hopping around and like breathing fire on a weapon as it's like sailing through the air to hit someone, and it like helping out around. I like that. That's like, well, this is kind of going against what I said earlier. Actually, it's kind of the opposite point. But it's your pet, but everyone's involved.
Yeah.
But it's like a fun dog, and I feel like everyone would want to be involved with that.
Everyone would want to pet the dog.
Everyone would be happy to have the dog help them out.
Yeah.
They'd be like, oh yeah.
Who's going to say no to an extra D6 to make their attack extra cool?
Guys, come near me so my dragon powers can empower your strike. No. Magic Doggo, run up and breathe fire on your blade.
Magic Doggo encourages you to do more damage.
I like that. So that's cool. And again, having a unique reaction on it, that's really awesome. And I feel like that would be a way to make Beastmaster, if you just take... you befriend a bear, and then if there was like a couple of unique reactions that the ranger can give to their beast, that could be a way of doing that, and then that could be like invocations.
Yeah, I think that could be. I'm going to try and say that. I think a list of beast companions that aren't just monsters from the book, right?
Yeah.
Because this isn't a monster in the book.
No.
Yeah.
Could be a really cool thing, like Black Bear with an ability and a this, so it's like...
Yeah, and they have like scaling stuff with them.
Yeah. Brown Bear could rage or whatever, because of like bear style and barbarian or something, like...
That'd be cool. I think if you made like, you can make, maybe like 5 or 6 of them, like they're all different. Like, I think this is really cool with this thing as well, because combat takes time, and having an extra... essential, like not another player, but like another actor in the combat
thing to move and
does make it a bit longer. And I feel like not that people would get like annoyed, but if it's like doing things to help them on their turn, I think that would probably reduce friction of again, like people going, the rangers to take angels on their turn. It's quick. You go extra D6.
Yeah, and
but you'd appreciate it being there.
Yeah.
I mean, you should anyway. But yeah, it's cool. I like it.
We're doing his little attacks.
Yeah. So. A 7th level, Bond of Fang and Scale. I also spat all over my screen when I said Fang. Anyway, 7th level. So you get resistance to that thing. Sure,
yes.
that makes sense. It makes less sense here because... Well, it depends how you think about it, I suppose. If you are treating it kind of like... a patrony thing, it makes sense. But if it's just like, oh, I'm friends with this dragon, it's weird to get the resistance. But you could always just say like, hey, this dragon's always like licking my face, and it has acid breath, and I've just gotten used to that.
That's great.
It's a bit stupid. That would work for like a lighter-hearted thing.
Well, it's like a Dragonheart situation, like that movie, where like your like your soul is intertwined with the soul of the creature, kind of thing.
Sure.
Because you could also say that maybe you're affecting the creature as well.
Not to distract or pull us all the way back to where we were before, but do you think that a compromise could be made on like having it being around more often, but limiting it to, because it's the same one, you have to kind of like lock into a...
Definitely.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah.
I would definitely do that.
Because then you could say like, well, I have it around and stuff, but also I can't just like chop and change all my things at the same time. Like I am like, it is like a fire drake.
I would do
that.
Maybe
that's what I'd want to do. Because you guys know me. I like to draw little tokens, and if I were to be playing this or have someone playing this in my game, I would be upset to like have to draw like one of each, not just because it's work, but because it's like, oh man, it's a shame that it's actually. Because you could even say, oh, it's the spirit of the same one, but it's different each time. But it's like, it would be weird. I would find it odd.
It's how Find Familiar works.
Yeah. I would want to lock in on one element for this. And again, like, I think there probably is a meta there, because especially if you know what kind of enemies you're going to be fighting overall.
Yeah.
I don't know which damage is the least resisted. but probably cold and fire are more often resisted. But then fire often has things that are weak to fire more so, and like a lot of things that don't regen with fire. Probably acid or poison would be the most meta pick.
I think a lot of things resist poison, don't they?
Oh, that's true. Yeah, a lot of things resist poison, but I think acid is probably...
I think the storytelling of that is great, though, with your guy breathing the poison on him and it not working, kind of stuff. That's pretty great.
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely... another thing while we're on that, because we're about to describe it gaining, like, swim and fly and stuff.
Yeah.
I would definitely want mine to not look like a drake.
Oh, sure.
I would definitely want it to look like a little dragon.
That's the thing, yeah, because
I think same.
Drake's, what book are they in? Is it Mordecaians or Volos?
I think they're Volos, yeah.
They're kind of cool, but they're kind of mean looking. You don't want it to be like a cool little dragon. Like the
pseudo dragon art in the player's handbook is so great.
Yeah, and maybe like a kind of beefier version of that could be fun.
And if you're playing like an elf and you're going for a different thing, because it doesn't have to be a standard monochromatic type of dragon.
Sure,
you could always have like a fairy dragon kind of guy or something like that, and you could really like flavour it to fit the kind of world you're in. Like if you're in an Underdark campaign, maybe a shadow dragon.
Ah, sure, yeah.
Like you could
multi-class necromancer.
Bone dragon.
Something about this as well, actually, just very quickly, is that a lot of the things in the Drake scale with proficiency, which means you could multi-class and still get some benefits to this. Obviously, its health would stop going up, but like its attack bonus and its AC, I think, was proficiency based. So that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, that is something, honestly. Its infused strikes would always work as well, so technically you could like dip 3 in this to get him just to hang out and buff. Both of these subclasses would be very interesting in a very particular type of campaign, which would be a campaign where you pick your class at level 1 as players, and your DM picks your subclass by something happening. Because it could be really interesting for a character to actually stumble into this.
Yeah. Because there's always like a thing with like a paladin oath or something. Starting at 1, you're like, well, I know I'm going to go oath of this, that, the other.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, it feels like that should be like a decision you make based on what goes on. And, for the monk, you find the scroll of this, that, the other, or like... I'd be up for doing that. That would be cool.
I'd be down for that.
I think it's a very particular type.
Definitely. I think you'd have to be someone who's... Well, actually, it could be something good for new players who don't because a lot of people who new to the game might just sort of pick arbitrarily. Obviously, let them know that's the way you'd be doing it. But that could be cool for new people, or even just for veterans of the game who it's something to mildly spice it up. So long as you know there's not a subclass that you despise, or that at least the DM knows that. But
it's definitely a way to give like investment into the game though, because your character's getting like completely like formed as you play.
Yeah, and you're discovering something about it as you're going. Because obviously, like you can act that you're like, oh, what's my power? What is this? Doing like, because again, Neil, your character in my game, you've done a grand job, I say, of not knowing what you're doing, but obviously you chose to be that class.
I picked him at level 1. Yeah.
yeah.
And it was pretty good fun. And again, there's some stuff that you don't necessarily know, but there's things that you
I know the abilities I learn.
You know the ability you learn. Yeah. So that's an interesting thought. I like that.
Yeah, it just dawned on me as like a. It could be very interesting for somebody to find the dragon wall and find out they're a dragonborn,
In my brother's game that I play in with my mother and my sister, my mother was a warlock and she was the Pact of the Chain, so she's got a pseudo dragon familiar. And when we hit the level where we got that stuff, my brother put like a mysterious dragon egg that was sent by her patron. And it was like, oh, and it hatched, and it was like a whole thing. It wasn't just like, oh, I can now cast this spell. So good on you, Phil, for instincts into making it more interesting than just what the game says flatly.
I love that stuff. Like, if I was playing this guy, having an egg at like level 1 would be...
Yeah, like as a trinket. Like,
yeah.
What? You got a mysterious egg?
Daenerys,
Yeah, it's like a...
Good Daenerys.
Yeah.
Then Togepi hatches out of it.
Togepi, yeah, that's pretty good too.
Right. 11th level, Drake's Breath. Now, this ability is almost good, but it gets on my nerves because it starts with the sentence, "You can exhale a 30-foot cone of damaging breath, or cause your Drake to..." Like, that's what you do. Your Drake should do it.
Your Drake should do it.
And then if you have to... That's the default, is your dragon breathes fire. Like, come on, guys.
Come on, wizards.
Come on, wizards. It's a dragon. The fact... Like, that's... come on, guys. Your dragon... Like, I don't necessarily mind you also being able to...
Being able to do it, but why is it being like you do it?
Yeah, the default should be that it's your dragon's ability, and then, again, if you're going for the more, like, explicitly, you yourself are a dragon magic-y person, and that's why you can do this, that's fine. That makes sense.
I think that's more what the angle of this class is.
Yeah,
over what we want it to be.
That is true. But it doesn't have an expanded spell. If it had an expanded spell list with stuff like Dragon's Breath on it, that would be cool. But again, that's not a thing that other ranges get. I wish there was more of that. And this is going to come out, I think, before Tasha's is out, so they better fix it, even though I'm sure it's all been printed already. But if there isn't updated spell lists that include the spells from Unearthed Arcanas and other books, then I'll be upset. Because there's Unearthed Arcana for, like, summoning stuff, and there's, like, the Genie Warlock does not get Summon Elemental, because they don't get it from the Warlock from that list, and they just don't get it because that is.
They have to take an invocation for it and stuff.
Yeah, and it's just like, come on. I mean, obviously, again, hey Neil, if you want to take that, I'm fine, but that's fine with me.
Spoilers.
But okay.
Hey, come on. I mean, well, I knew like by this point.
I think even at this point, if you are watching the videos of them, then I think they've caught up to that.
Probably. But there might be the odd person out there because it's never been explicitly said.
It's never been said or mentioned.
Not in words, no.
Yeah, which
ever.
I think is a triumph of victory for Yaz, is that nobody's pointed at him and gone, "Oh, you're that."
But yeah,
what would be the point?
It's cool that there's a lot of cool spells which are not on the expanded spell lists, and I get why they're not. But at this point, guys, come on. We gotta get expanded spell lists. We are all very happy, I think, with home ruling stuff and coming up with home rules. But that's not necessarily the case.
It's for everyone.
A lot of people probably wouldn't. There's been a couple of times when I've been like, I'm not confident enough that saying yes to this will not break the game, so I cannot say yes to that. I'm not. I'm not gonna commit because I'm not a game designer. Anyway, let's talk about this Dragon Breath. You do damage based on the thing. It's a 66 at 11th when you get it. And it's a 30-foot cone, which is pretty huge. That's pretty good. That's probably one of the better cones. And again, you can use a spell slot, 3rd or higher, to do it again. Obviously, rangers don't get loads of 3rd level spells.
So I hope you've realised that basically 3rd level, 8d6, it's a fireball.
Is that actually how much fireball does as well?
8d6. When you get it at 11th level, you have three spell slots of 3rd level. So you get this 3 times if you don't want to spend any other spells.
I really like the fact that it's still a small creature breathing a 30-foot cone.
Yeah. Where's all this lung energy?
It's also your kobold doing it.
Oh, that's true. Either or, yeah. I thought a kobold, right? The reason I picked kobold was because I imagined a kobold being given a quest by a bigger dragon.
Yeah.
And then, like, your ancient red dragon is like, yeah, take this beast and go do my bidding. And it's like, okay. And then it's sort of like on a quest from an actual dragon. I think it would be quite funny.
It could also be funny for the kobold to have a lucky rock that turns out to be an egg.
Yeah. Drake's Breath, cool damage. There's not a million good damaging spells for Ranger, especially not 3rd level as far as I'm aware, so cool. And again, more opportunities to get good elemental damage, especially like, cold. There's not loads of cold spells. I don't think there's that many high level, like, acid spells. There probably are a couple, but all the famous ones are fire.
Yeah.
For high damage, fire and necrotic.
Yeah, cold's that kind of cold.
Yeah.
What's interesting is it's your action to make your Drake breathe as well, because as an action cause your Drake to exhale.
Sure, yeah. So you order it, you should order it.
Which I'm perfectly okay with, because if it was like the Drake uses its action to do it, that'd be too strong.
Oh yeah,
because again, Ranger's still got multi-attack and stuff, and presumably a good plus to hit. Oh, that's something I didn't mention about the monk, and I guess it doesn't. I don't know if it comes up in this at all, but what I liked about some of the monk stuff is it uses your wisdom more than other monks do, because it's using your key save. And
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, so that's an interesting thing. Anyway, that's a tangent I forgot to mention before. Right. So 15th level, perfected bond. This one's funny. The Drake grows to large. Just suddenly, it's big. It's big now. Again, this is an odd thing about the size of it, because originally I was like, oh, maybe it's not large because, if you're dungeoning about, then there might not be times when a large creature works. Like, there's obviously... Dungeons can be quite narrow. But here, it just grows to large, and it doesn't say that it can be small. I would argue I would let that be the case, especially if you're having it being a summoned creature.
There's a playable centaur nowadays, so it's like...
Well, that's true.
It's like, what does it really matter about scale of anything?
Everyone knows that fights always end up in big arenas anyway, big wide areas, so there's no problem. The Drake's damage increases yet again, even further, by another d6. I guess that's fine. Keep it moving up. Again, I think by this point it's doing 3d6 of its elemental damage, which is for 15th level. That's decent. That's not crazy.
It's nice.
Yeah, and it will also be doing a d6 on someone else's attack.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. That's actually a good point. And the final thing, and I like this, is whenever you or the Drake take damage, when you're close, you react to resist it. So you can imagine you're helping each other in some way. Which is fun. I like that, having that within 30 feet of each other, because again, it is confirming that you together are this character, not just one without the other.
Didn't think about that.
Which is, I think, potentially something that you might otherwise end up having happen if you were to play something like this. You might be like, oh, the dragon does its thing, I do my thing. They are not connected. You wouldn't necessarily think about it. Yeah, that's the conclusion of this class. It's my favourite... Oh, that's the conclusion of the drawing. Well timed. It's probably my favourite ranger. So that's something.
I have to say, I really want to see this art with him big.
That's another thing. Having it being the same character the whole time. This little funny dragon dog, lol. And then you get to this level, it's it's big now. And that'd be fun. And then you can ride it and such.
Yeah.
And
fight together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Conceptually, it's good, but issues.
It's just one of those things where to make it what I'd want it to be, there'd be a lot of juggling, and it wouldn't be hard, but it would be.
It's not too hard.
Yeah, it's just one.
It's still a good framework for what you want out of it.
Definitely, yeah. And I think there's lessons to be learned about how to make the Beastmaster. Although I can't remember how current Beastmaster works. There was a ARTcana one, I think.
They're a lot more about fighting together with their animal to get extra attacks and things like that.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
I want to talk about both classes together for a moment.
Sure, yeah.
About how we always talk about the NPC or the party dynamic. The villain team of the Servants of a Dragon having these two in them is very good.
Yeah.
The
dragon sorcerer as well.
A dragon,
yeah, draconic heritage. Yeah.
Draconic heritage sorcerer, maybe, a dragonborn fighter, maybe, because even he gets the breath, and then
a war paladin or something.
Yeah, or a paladin, yeah, and then the Drake guard, and then also the monk, and that's a great anti-party Servants of a Dragon.
Yeah, definitely.
Or even a party who are servants of a benevolent dragon. Maybe there is a platinum dragon or whatever that's trying to send people out to help the world, and you're all tied to that in some way.
Yeah, and maybe you sort of don't even realise that you have a mysterious benefactor.
Maybe you're guided by the canaries or something.
Yeah, that could be fun, and that could be a good way if you do have a surprise reveal of what your subclasses are. You could just be like, surprise, dragons are involved in this. Like, you're just people thrown together by fate, or are you? Whoa, have you been manipulated into this by unseen forces?
I do have a rule about D&D which I don't follow myself, which is...
That's the best kind of rule.
Which is the less you know about D&D, the better it is.
Yep.
Right.
I can't
I feel what you mean there. I was sitting here overanalyzing like every little thing.
But I can't possibly follow that, but I try to.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. Like, I try to act like, oh, well, you can just do this, and does that need to... That rule doesn't matter, and stuff like that, because you just don't need it, right? Sure. If you know every monster's stat block in the game...
Yeah, that is a real...
Anyone I've played with who's, like, talked about DMing and stuff like that, I talk about, like, well, you should play first and get to experience your first Utiug and your first...
I don't know how anyone ever started playing, because surely no one DM'd the first couple games. Like, how would you start DMing without knowing what it's like to play?
I think it was a different game back then.
Oh, of course, yeah. And it was all Gygax was the guy running...
He went around town to town.
You went through the dungeon, and that was what you did. And that was it. These classes are a little more technical than others. They.
I think that's kind of like a bit of a trend, but I think it's because Fifth's been around for so long. The people who are looking at these classes have played a lot of the game. Like, if you are watching this video, or someone will you probably have quite a keen interest in D&D already. So I don't think they're super marketed at like a new player.
Sure, especially because these are you have to.
It's a place to try out new things, and I think they.
You have to be looking for PDFs online of like not yet released content to be playing these guys.
But obviously there will be a point when they do get released, and
quite
they don't. So there is, but I guess it's just because Fifth was when it came out was such a kind of like revision, like a back to basics of like. And it's just we're getting like a slow creep back into like not in a bad way. I don't think personally, but there's definitely I agree. There's definitely like a level of like complexity being re-added, especially with like I like the things that that are cool about these classes. It is a lot of like keeping track of different like for example with the monk you've got like 4 different like resources to keep track of for like your allowances for each different ability. Which isn't like a big thing, but it's more than. Some of the more basic classes.
Definitely. And again, they're bringing some, not specifically 4th edition stuff in, but they're leaning more in that direction, but they are not doing the bad things about 4th edition, which there were some. It wasn't all good.
Compare, like, for instance, Rune Knight to Champion Fighter. Where Champion Fighter doesn't have anything active. I think anything active.
You hit enemies.
It's fighter, and then it's more crit and stuff like that.
You regenerate your health.
Like level 20.
And again, we're not only as you said earlier, Sam. We're seeing, of course, Tasha's going to have a lot of the subclasses that we've been talking about here on this channel. Are coming out officially. I don't think we're going to do a new video on all of them. Probably not on any of them, unless there's a massive change to one of them. Maybe then we can talk about it if there's something that they've done.
We need to make a prediction right now. Now.
I can't remember.
Right now. No. Right now. The next book is going to be called Otterluke's something.
Otterluke's something of everything.
Right? Because there's all the named wizards in the book. And we've had Mordekainen, we've had Volo, we've had Tasha.
Oh, but Xanathar was a
you know what, you're right.
Pick. It might be another monster.
But I'm going for Mordekainen and Tasha. I'm going that vibe.
So we're not going to get a mouth.
Bigby's big hand of
big book.
Bigby's big book of everything.
I love Bigby's big book. That'd be so good.
So we'll be slipping that in to the, obviously everyone hashtag Bigby's Big Book of Everything for 2021 or something, or probably later than that.
22 probably.
What I want, Bigby's Big Book of Everything is my book. It's for me, and it's going to contain monsters, magic items, and some spells.
And all the Bigby spells to make a Bigby Voltron.
I want Bigby's big left hand, Bigby's big feet, and Bigby's big torso, and then your Bigby at the top as the head. You need like 6 18th level wizards to cast it. But that's the only way to beat the Tarrasque.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, summon
For
Big B.
Full Big B. These are good classes. Man, there's so many classes that I'm never going to play. There are now too many classes to play. I haven't played some of the ones from the base book yet that I wanted to play. I want them to rework Monster Hunter Fighter, because I love the class conceptually, but it's so creaky and old compared to new classes.
Scout.
Scout's okay, but yes. A lot of the older ones are now they're creaky old man classes.
It fits on an A5 piece of paper. Yeah.
Your values are your own, old man. Yeah.
Old man. Anyway, I guess that's the end of this video. Good stuff.
If you made it this far, thanks.
Yeah, no worries, guys. There's videos. There's videos. Like, comment, and subscribe.
Yeah.
Ring the bell. Why don't you?
Guys, I didn't mention ARTcana once.
You didn't even say any of these with a ARTcana. I thought you might have forgotten.
Oh, I didn't. I just
never forget.
I strategically didn't say it.
This video's a little later out than... It's not hot news anymore, but who cares?
But if you get some enjoyment out of it.
It's unlikely that most people who've read that have also now gone and played the class and have... that's unlikely, right? People take ages to start playing D&D. People are like, guys, I'm going to start a campaign soon. And then 2 years later, they're like, okay, I'm ready. Let's go. And then a couple months pass as everyone's organising the days to play.
And then you join, and then you don't get to pick your class till level 3, your subclass till level 3. So it's like, I'm just base ranger for like a year.